Welcome everybody back to my chess stream here on lichess.org. Yeah, my stream stopped definitely. We're back and we're going to resume. My broadcasting software has been behaving very strangely. I might have to do some soul searching to fix it, but it's been behaving very strangely lately. I don't know why. I've never had serious problems ongoing for this long, but it does very strange things when I want to start the stream sometimes. It looks like we'll get it fixed here, but I have to reset up the board several times. Alright, so we're back and it looks okay now. We have originally I planned to play d3 and then I changed my mind at the last moment, but I'm not sure this was really the greatest idea. I kind of almost wish I had played d3 instead of d4. It would have given me a bit more flexibility, but then again, on the other hand, I have a good square for my knight on d3, so I suppose d4 is valid here. The stream should be working now. Let me try to refresh my own Twitch here, see if it's up. Yeah, it looks good again. Alright, now it should be okay. I've had to lower the frame rate, so 2 times this week, strangely. But, looks like it's on now. Once I get it set into a frame rate that works for it, it's usually okay. But in the beginning, this is the second time this week I had to really kind of play with it to get it to be happy in the morning. So, looks like it's good. And usually once I get it set on a level where it's comfortable, it's working alright. So here we have an interesting move, bishop b4, trying to trade off my bad bishop. The problem with that move is that I don't really want to take on d6. I don't really want to play bishop b4 and bishop takes d6 and give him pawn takes pawn, which controls the key squares e5 and c5. So I'm a little bit in a quandary here as to what to do. I'd like to castle kingside. So I'm just going to play the ultra lame looking bishop d2. Maybe I should play b3. If I play, for example, bishop b4, black could play a5 and just kick my bishop, gain space with the queen, and it feels like I'm kind of wasting time there. We could also play knight e5, but black just plays knight e8. I mean, I've been avoiding doing this because it just doesn't seem to really bring me any profit. I mean, if I play either knight to e5, he simply plays bishop e8, and then f6 is going to kick me out, and I didn't really benefit from this. So I'm holding my horses. But I just want to castle kingside. So bishop d2, it's pretty weak. We could set it back on its normal square and play chess, you know. I don't know what to do. Little penguin, yeah, we're good now, and usually once I get it set, we're okay. But it's a bit weird. If anybody out there knows the online broadcasting software very well, let me know, because I don't really understand why it's different on a day-to-day basis, like what kind of frames per second it wants to use without having trouble, and it's very finicky. So I should do some research, but we're all right now. So bishop d2. Bishop c1. I'm not a technologue. I'm a chess player, and I've never been that technically oriented. So with computers and whatnot, I'm competent, but I'm not an expert. Who was here? Super Potzer was here and telling me things about the technical side of it. But I mean, I'm just not that expert, you know, in any kind of software and stuff like that. I'm an average user, but I'm not a super user. Knight f6 castles. We're going to castle the long way here. And I like it. We're coordinated. We have good control of e5. The knight on c4 is probably a mistake. Kicking it out now. However, maybe I was a little hasty with this move. We were a little hasty with this move. Here's knight a3. I didn't really want to give up my bishop, but it is my bad bishop, so c'est la vie. I'm not going to play rook b2. Booker Smith, that's quite an impressive sort of formation you have so far. I think very well coordinated. We both have queen on a1, a8. That's hard to get into the game. But at this stage now, things are a little different. I mean, I might be willing to play knight e5 at some point. And don't understand knight g4. So he did knight b4, knight c4, and I let him play knight a3. Now he does knight g4, which is a strange move for sure. But you could go to like knight h6. It's pretty deep, actually. Maybe knight e5 and e4, try to play e4, but I don't see much advantage here for white, honestly. I don't really see much advantage here. This game is going to be decided by time. And unfortunately, whenever we have a really close position like the Stonewall Dutch, a closed Catalan like this, it's just like we're using the time for the first 15 moves, and then it degenerates into... I've had a lot of games like this with one of our regular viewers, Shaw and Shaw. It just kind of degenerates in the Stonewall Dutch to a game where we're playing, I don't know, like incremental bullet with move 15, you know, around move 15 now. D takes C, we could argue, is a risky move for black, because he's giving up his center. And I like b6 there. I really like b6 there. There may have been some possible tactics. I don't see what, though. So it's a little strange now with a long diagonal and the queen on a8. Plays b5. Well, Booker Smith drops a piece here. His queen, I guess, is lost. That's pretty serious. More serious than losing the knight at g4. So here you had a great game, perfectly reasonable until the last move there, b5. Well, not until the last move. I mean, you shouldn't have played bishop a4, although it was tempting. You need to really watch that long diagonal. So, but Booker Smith, I think, a step in the right direction. You played really what looked like, you know, you had a great understanding of the coordination of the pieces out of the opening. You coordinated yourself really well. So I like that a lot. Little tactical mistake, obviously, and abandoning and not really noticing the importance of this long diagonal here. So, but the sense of coordination of the pieces looked really good. And, you know, you need more time, I think, and I need more time too. But I'm a little more used to playing fast blitz than probably you are. I have years and years of experience. You guys don't see me playing fast blitz. It doesn't mean I can't. You know, I have a lot of experience. I love to play fast, but on the stream, you know, really focusing on trying to play the best moves, and it's not a recreational blitz game like I might play in my off time. But I like playing fast. I like playing 3-minute. I like playing, not really 2-minute, but you see me getting in time pressure a lot. It doesn't mean that I'm slow. I mean, I like to take my time here on the stream, but I can play quickly when I need to. Anyway, welcome everybody to the stream. It depends on your connection with Twitch if you use OBS. Well, I have a kind of weird setup because I'm using Twitch on one. I'm logged into Twitch on one machine, and I'm actually using OBS on another one. So, Little Penguin says, I like it that you don't play blitz. You get to explain your moves. Yeah, I mean, that's the point of the stream. I mean, there's plenty of these guys like who just play bullet. I mean, we look at the notable, regular streamers like Chess Network and King Crusher. I mean, these guys love playing bullet chess. I mean, that's their biggest thing, and that's not really going to help anybody. As much as explaining the moves. All right, Max123, new player. We've never played them before. King Chaser. King Chaser needs to change his challenge from 10 minutes. That's too long. I can't afford to play, and I don't play rated anymore because I'm at too much of a handicap while I'm trying to explain the moves. So King Chaser, if you could re-challenge me, if you're listening, if you could re-challenge me to like 8-3 unrated, like everybody else, that would be the optimal. I also play faster, 5-3 or even 5-5, if you'd like to. Anything between 5-3 and 8-3. So King Chaser needs to re-challenge, and we've got ARX and Fortuit Folier. So Max123, we had played once. Okay, I didn't remember this game. Now I remember it, actually. I think you played pretty tough for a large portion of this game. Max is 2000. Yeah, I vaguely remember this game. Are you like from Germany or something? No, I don't know. But anyway, I do vaguely remember this game. Let's play E4. I've been playing more E4 lately. Yeah, have played me once before. I just mentioned it. I didn't remember by the name, but there's something a little vaguely familiar. Yeah, can't forget. You can forgive me for forgetting one game, but E4 E6 French defense. I had the game against Jacobian I mentioned yesterday, 2 days ago on ICC, and I had a great advantage in a classical French, but just squandered it. Didn't really do anything. I just tried to play too solidly without trying to attack him, and I should have not let him get into an equal endgame where he could outplay me. But Bishop B4 is the winnower, which is much scarier, I think, for both sides, and much more irrational than Knight F6, and of course better than like the Rubinstein variation. I like Bishop B4. It's the most dynamic move for black, but also the riskiest. So we have here main line. Now CD4. Interesting that you played this. I had a student who played this like a week or two ago. And we can also go back to Modern Chess Opening Theory by Sweden, who talks about this position a little bit, gives some examples. I don't really like this line for black. I mean, maybe it's playable, but it doesn't seem like you have... It doesn't seem like you really have a position that gives you any chance of taking the initiative. Giving up the dark squared bishop. I like this pawn at b4. It's really cramping. And the a file. It seems like white has all the dynamism here. So I'm going to go on record as saying, although this line might be playable for black, I don't think it's really very promising. And yeah, so one of my students did play this. Let's see, how was it? Well, he had to have been black, and he misplayed it. He got pretty much crushed, I guess. So he didn't really know what he was doing. But looking at the theory after my lesson with my student, I started to look at this line briefly. And it didn't look like black had too much to offer in this variation. I'm not an expert, but statistically it didn't look good. I recommend, playing the main lines with bishop takes c3. I mean, it's got to be the best. And you can experiment also. I think bishop a5 is more interesting than c takes d on move 5. And maybe, there's some players who, like Halifman was playing bishop a5. Laputian might have played it for a while, but c takes d4, I mean, I just don't think that it's really a very reliable variation. I mean, I'm not talking as an opening expert, but I mean, fundamentally, so knight e7, you're not taking on b2. That's interesting, so that might be the right idea, I don't know. I'm not even sure if I should recapture or just continue to offer this pawn. Well, let's make one more developing move and then decide, perhaps. But it's very possible that Max 123 knows the theory much, much deeper than me. I'm just playing on my intuition here. But the variation is not considered by top players to be really correct for black. Maybe it has enough poison that I'm going to get confused and misplay this position, but looking at a small sample of games and just black's statistical score, I was pretty unimpressed by C takes D on move 5. It's an old variation, but it's not really scored well. All right, Booker Smith, have a good rest, man. Thanks for... All right, Queen C7. Defending his pawn for good. Focusing on development here. So I have to openly admit my knowledge of theory on the white side of the French is rather sparse. I really, compared to other openings, know very little memorized book theory on the white side of the French, and particularly on the winnower. I've only played maybe 2 or 3 games in my life. I have to admit that I've avoided a lot of opponents. When I do play e4, I have a tendency to avoid the guys who play the winnower with black, because the theory is very, very complicated, very strategic, and very long. If I see there's a player who plays the French and they play the classical, or they play Rubinstein or something else, then I'll play against them. But if I see they play the winnower, I've generally kind of shied away. A few times it happened that I played e4 in some open tournaments where I didn't have any real knowledge of the opponent, and I got into the winnower, and I did okay. But I've studied to some extent, but not very deeply. But I think here we need to rely on our general understanding of opening principles. White's willing to sacrifice a pawn, basically for development and space. Now I'm thinking, did I screw this up? We take on c3, black takes on e5. We have a massive lead in development, but I'm not that convinced by this position. Black has a lot of pawns in the center. He has a lot of cover for his king. I don't really want to give him either pawn, the e5 pawn or the b4 pawn, to be honest. In this position, the b4 pawn, he hits my bishop on d3, which is a vital piece. So I think we made a mistake here, but white should have a fighting chance. We have to sacrifice the pawn on e5. I could play I'm going to have to sacrifice something here, obviously. So b5, knight takes e5, knight takes e5. b5, knight takes e5, bishop f4, knight takes f3, queen takes f3, e5. I'm just going to have to sacrifice a pawn for general open lines. I don't think I have quite enough compensation for this. Andrea said there's a storm and the light sometimes switches off on my house, okay? Do I want to know what you mean? Are you in Florida? No. No, you're in Italy, right? We have a huge hurricane, I know, in the Caribbean. A lot of rain here in Budapest. I don't see the benefit in bishop f4. b6. Do I have anything with b6? Knight takes f3, queen takes f3. Interesting. Queen b6. Try to pinpoint two weaknesses in black's position. It's hard to do. I definitely don't have enough compensation for this pawn, but we have something. Oh man. Just blundered. Pawn takes pawn. Guess I'm just losing a piece here. Alright. Well, that was a good game. One of my worst games ever. Max 123 just took me apart. It's 1599 in blitz. 1600 in blitz, but 2000 in classical. Okay, Max, good game. ARX, we have to lose a rook there, or lose a piece at least, so that was resignable. Not a good line for black, but we do need to brush up on the theory. Alright, so we are into our third game today. Dropping a piece with pawn takes b2. I'm a little bit sleepy yet, but I was out of my element in that winnower, I have to admit. Alright, Sparkle Horse ARX d4. We have clear skies here in Hungary. I hope that doesn't mean that another storm is coming this way. We had a rain for the last 2 days, basically. Against ARX, I'm going to play knight f3. Yeah, I mean, I just overlooked pawn takes b2. It happens. I'm attacking his queen, and you think he has in the intermezzo, but unfortunately he's making a queen with the capture of a rook on a1, so very bad tactical oversight. It happens to the best of us, I guess. Knight f3. It's kind of like a two knights tango after this. It is exactly a two knights tango. I'd like to play a3. Told you I do well with winnower against higher rated. Yeah. It's pretty impressive. I was disoriented because I felt that I had already made a mistake. But I think if we look at the theory, that's not going to be a very good variation for black. Sometimes it happens that the worst line is a better practical choice because people don't bother to study it. Arcs here is playing a kind of Queen's Gambit declined with the knight on c6, which is generally not good. But white has this move a3, which is also arguably maybe not the best, most useful move. It creates some weaknesses in the position at b3 and c4. Although, what's black going to do? Play maybe knight a5 at some point. I'm strongly thinking about bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, putting pressure on the d5 pawn. Simply b4 is interesting. Well, Max, I don't think you got lucky that I blundered. I mean, maybe you got lucky that I blundered, but I think that I still didn't know what I was doing. You know, I don't think that I have enough compensation for the pawn there. So you confused me by playing knight e7 instead of taking on b2. I don't know, you know, if that's the theory or just like a random move. I won't know until after the stream when I can look it up. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't seem really right for black, but what are we doing here after bishop takes, bishop, pawn takes pawn? Oh man, now he has that. I'm a little bit off today. I'm not seeing things that I should see. So now Arcs has knight back to e7 defending his d5 pawn. Okay, it's not a big deal, but it gives him a playable position. This bishop is pretty bad on b7. We could play a lot of different plans, but I'm thinking, originally I was thinking of queen b3, but I'm not sure that it's necessary or even good to just make you make a move that's probably the best useful move, the most useful move anyway. So queen b3 is not the no-brainer. Might be better for me to just set up a little more naturally here. Got a terrible pain in my neck today. Something how I slept. Now you're blundering the h7 pawn. Is this an intentional sacrifice? Probably not. But he's starting g6, so white has a tidbit of compensation. We have to be careful here. Bishop f5, knight takes f5, queen takes f5. Would seem like the logical continuation. This knight is a piece that could do some damage. G6 isn't the best move. I mean, G6 is okay, but you had an opportunity there to play C5, which I thought might have given me very serious problems. So after C5, if I castle, you have pawn takes pawn, and I'm like losing material. And if I try to play something like knight to E2, you can play bishop A6. I think C5 would have caused very, very serious problems for white. You know, now it's not as dangerous. I can simply castle, and I'm a pawn up. Or pawn takes pawn. I don't want to take twice on C5. His pieces get too active. So I'm just going to castle here. Everybody's out to get me. I feel like everybody's out to get me. But you guys, 1600 in blitzing, you play very, very quickly, very confidently, very well. You're 1300 in blitz. Wow, dude. And you really understand the game. I mean, I was thinking this the other day. If we took ratings like from today and we compared them to the ratings of yesterday, how would people stack up? You know. So what I'm asking is, how strong is like a 1600? Let's just for argument's sake say ARX. Maybe the lichess ratings are a little inflated, but just for argument's sake, let's say that ARX is 1650 FIDE or 1650 US or whatever. I know he's from Poland, but how strong is the 1650 of today versus the 1650 of 30 years ago? And I was thinking that maybe players are stronger for the ratings than they used to be. I guess we need some scientific evidence to prove this theory, but ARX, I think, playing very dynamically, two bishops. He knows to play like g6, king, g7, quickly go to the h file, very aggressive. I mean, he plays like a strong player in my mind. I mean, not like a typical 1600 would be making blunders, dropping pieces, especially in a fast game. Used to play at county level when I was much younger. This is max, I think. So the temptation here to play for cheapos is kind of massive. Maybe it's not a cheapo though. Knight f4. Just a thematic move. It also blocks the diagonal to my pawn on h2. But Max, I'm glad you played that line of the winnower. I thought it was just a joke, but it's not a joke. So this is a strange situation here, where we have to be careful. Almost have a tactic, but it doesn't quite work. Knight e6, knight on d to e6 check, queen takes e6, knight takes e6, king moves somewhere, knight takes d8, bishop takes h2 with a draw by repetition. The draw by repetition is kind of taking the fun out of life right now. Knight e6 check, pawn takes e6, knight on d e6 check, pawn takes e6, queen takes g6 check, king f8, and then I have a problem, Houston, because I can't do anything. I play knight e6 check again, winning his queen, but he has king e7 there, and again there's still the perpetual on h2, so unfortunately we can't get anything going against Arx's king here. But a guy who's, 1100 and, well, he's not, okay, he's not got enough games to judge him, but he's 1300 in blitz, and he's playing, like I would expect, I don't know, an A player in American terms, an 1800 or 1900 player. This kind of game, if you said how strong is black, I would say 1900 at least. Based on how dynamically he's played. Yes, he's down a pawn, but he has pretty strong compensation for it. I mean, this isn't a guy who's got nothing for the pawn. So I'm thinking, well, if this is an average 1600, then the rating system is a little tougher than it used to be. On the Wikipedia article about ratings and such, they suggest Fischer's rating was around 2898. Mr. Burns says people play a lot stronger today because they use engines during the game. Well, that is possible. We know that. I don't think it applies to everyone. So again, tactics, knight e6. Knight e6 doesn't threaten anything here for me. So he's got queen h3 now. So yeah, it looks like he's playing pretty strongly. This guy's playing pretty strongly. I'm a little bit concerned here about this. This is a very dangerous position. I might even sack the exchange. If I play rook on a to d1, something like that. Yeah, Mr. Burns, well, that's one of the reasons why we had to stop playing rated games. People are less likely to cheat against us if it's unrated. And I've gone on record as saying this a million times, but I mean, forget about holding tournaments. I know that there's the bit chess tournaments. I mean, you're playing for pennies there, basically. But if they start holding chess tournaments for serious money, I mean, everybody's going to be trying to cheat. So it is a huge issue. But I mean, besides that, in all seriousness, I think are the rating system getting, are players getting stronger per capita for the ratings? This looks pretty dangerous for me. Eric's found that. This pretty deep pawn sacrifice. I mean, I wouldn't be suspicious if it wasn't for the fact that he was like 1300 in blitz. I mean, that's very low rated. And he's playing this game like a master. But this may just be one game where he played well. But 1300 is very, very low. I thought I had defense with knight f3, but it looks like my king is going to have to take a walk here, which I didn't want to do. So Eric's may have been able to calculate this further than me. Yeah, he found this. So my king has to take a walk now. I may be getting checkmated. Oh, you found that too. Okay. Queen takes d4 check, probably loses immediately, so I have to play this move. Oh, and he's got... I may have defense here. Let's see. Rook e1. He's down to 44 seconds. Bishop takes f3 immediately. Insta moves. This is a guy who's 1100 in blitz. And 1100 in bullet and 1300 in blitz. Queen h3 check. I was scared you had better than that. Black is maybe not winning, but it's better for black. If I go toward the center, he has rook c2 check. King f3. Well, anyway, I need to go toward the center. Oh, this move. What's this about? Well, he's calculated the king and pawn endgame already. That's pretty good, dude, for an 1100. If I play f3 there, he plays king e6 and goes back. I don't know what's going on here. And he's playing so fast. f5. I'm not sure what's going on here. f5, king takes, king up. No, that's probably bad. I have to play king e5. But the thing that's bothering me is his instant moves. It's kind of disturbing. For a guy who's supposed to be 1100 in bullet to just be able to make instant moves, instantly, every single move. I mean, this player is just too strong for this rating, basically. I mean, he's lost 5 games against me, but today he's like a new man. I don't think I can win this position. I'm unlucky. I should have lost probably 7 different ways. So he didn't win when he could have, but this looks like it's impossible for me to win. I mean, I'm fortunate not to lose. The point is, if he ever goes, you know, tries to push me out, I have f5 in some positions, so it's a draw. Okay. I mean, I probably should have lost that game. All right, so we're in good form today, but everybody's playing like a master, basically. Very, very fortunate not to lose. Actually, I saw it when I played knight f3, but I said, well, the average player isn't going to see this long combination. But I'm thinking he has even better. Maybe instead of... He's winning the king and pawn ending. He should be winning the king and pawn ending if he'd gone toward the center. Instead of playing king G, whatever, he could have stayed with his d pawn and been winning probably with a passed pawn. My double pawns are pretty useless there. That was very insightful that he saw this variation with the double rook exchange too, because I thought we were going into a rook endgame where I had chances to draw, but I didn't see rook e8 so quickly. So I don't know, maybe he had a friend playing today because he was monstrously dangerous. But I appreciate if you guys don't have like your friends play, you know, if you do, like if you have somebody else playing in your account, tell me so I know like how strong the opposition is going to be. I know that some people will be sitting there with a buddy and invite them to play instead of themselves. So if you do that, let me know. If it's like a master strength player, it's not really cool to like troll the streamer with a master strength friend or something, or misrepresent your rating. Castles, I think I shouldn't do that. I should play d4. It's a little more accurate move order. But black goes king f4 g4 and back. I can play like a master, Pokemon master. I mean, black's whole game was I thought good. Even the pawn sacrifice, he has. It's a pretty reasonable pawn sacrifice. It wasn't like he just dropped a pawn for nothing. So the whole game looks like pretty decent for black. He may have had a win there in the king and pawn end game, and I'm sure he had better ways to play. But he was playing super fast. You know, he didn't take time to try to play the very best lines at the end. He was just like moving instantly. So that's why he didn't win. If he had spent a little more time, he would have seen the accurate continuation. 4-2 at Folier, we talked about this like a month ago. Alejandro Rios, Colombian, I am played this against me, won a very painful game. A6 is not supposed to be good because I can play this weird move c5. But I did find another variation. I'm thinking about, we had an interesting game on the stream against somebody that did this. A lot of people like mistakenly play queen a5 in this kind of position, allow knight b3, and then just waste time. The knight is not great on b3, but it secures the pawn on c5. Queen a5 is a very bad move. You really need to kind of destroy this pawn somehow, but it's not easy. 40 b5 was winning according to the engine. Winning for me? Well, take care with those engines, okay? What engine are you using? Because if you're using, like me, if you're using Firefox and you've got Stockfish on lichess, don't trust anything that thing spits out because it does just crazy stuff. As far as I can see, you're probably better off using, if you want to use the engine on lichess, you're better off using like Google Chrome or something. So, because the thing will just spit out totally random information that isn't right. I'm not sure. You better double check that variation because I find it hard to believe I was winning somehow. Seemed like black had the upper hand there. D6. Well, Fortuit Folie here offering an exchange at least. At least an exchange. I could just take on D6. Take on D6. Knight takes D4, pawn takes E7. If I take on D6, yeah, this is as good as anything. I don't really like giving up my bishop and losing the safety of my king. Mr. Burns says B5 was winning according to the engine. B5 for white? Black has to move the king, and then you can go king f6. Nah, king f6 is still bad. Of course it is. But f5 is good. Well, there were some positions where f5 would win if his king moved far enough away, but now my idea was pawn takes e7. Is this crazy? Alright, man, I don't know. Pawn takes e7. I'm going to stick with my calculations here. This is kind of crazy. It's just a different way of winning the exchange, ultimately, I think. And it may even be a worse way of winning the exchange. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe it's simpler just to take queen takes d4 next. Because if I wanted, my original variation was queen takes e7, bishop takes b8. Yeah, actually, this is fine. I'm really being a little crazy. All right, this is winning. This is winning. All right, I'm really, I lost my confidence after this. I lost my confidence after the first couple games. I got crushed in the win over French, dropping a piece. I struggled for a draw out of what should have been a good opening against a player almost 1,000 rating points lower. So we lost our confidence a bit here. Now, bishop g4, I'm thinking about ridiculous things here. I'm thinking about f3. I mean, obviously I have to just take the hanging knight, and we're just up in exchange, which was the goal of this whole concept in the first place. But what I managed to do was win the exchange, you know, without any risk to myself. If we go back to like bishop f4, d6. Most people would do bishop takes c6 here, pawn takes c6, knight takes c6. And maybe it's good somehow, but it's very complicated, and I end up giving up my white squared bishop. And I don't really want to do that. Now you played what? Knight d7. Queen takes d4, knight d7, hitting my queen, but you're dropping a piece here. This is a silly blunder. Quality control in this stream is not good today. Me, I think I'm influencing you guys because we're all playing badly. Now, obviously, you have to take on b8 Fortuit Folie, so we're really playing badly today. This is gonna be the worst played stream I think I've played, and yeah. So now you're down a rook. This is pretty bad. We are not playing well collectively today. Friday, it's Friday. I guess, like, thank God it's Friday comes to mind. We have TGI Fridays here in Budapest. Maybe I'm going to go before I go to play poker tonight. Does it bode well for my poker night tonight? Andrea Peroni, King Chaser needs to re-challenge with an increment. King Chaser, if you're listening, please challenge me to 8-3 if you'd like to play. If you'd like to play. Resignanian, King Wiki, Hunt the King. They're all good. King Chaser, you need to re-challenge. We're going to play Andrea, 8-3. Drink Ketchup, also from the team Amazon. I've been playing Poor Blitz for a week, dropped like 150. That's no problem. Yeah, you can drop that much in an hour. E4, C6. I've been working on the Caro-Kann. I have one of my most advanced student. We've been working on some. I told you guys I wanted to start playing the Bishop F5 Caro-Kann, and he plays against that. So with him, he's a master. I'm actually starting to work on playing, the Bishop F5 Caro-Kann. But anyway, all right, now we're going to concentrate on Bishop F5. I've played a lot of C5, and I don't think that it's really correct. It's good as a kind of backup to confuse people, but if you really want to fundamentally play this advanced Caro-Kann, I think you have to play Bishop F5. So I dropped a piece in 12 moves. Begged for a draw out of a lost ending, probably. And now we're facing F4, though. So F4, a very rare move. This is like a footnote in Encyclopedia for sure. I mean, it's not unplayable, but it's taking a lot of time. So I think that Black should react actively against F4. The question is, well, E6 is, if E6, do we get some Karaklaj type of bishop, Karaklaj, Kuprejcik? By the way, guys, we had a game against WGM. Not really. The player known as WGM Alexandra, who played against me Knight F3. How did it go? Knight F3, E6, Bishop E3, I think. But honestly, the Kuprejcik variation, as far as I recall, is like Bishop E3 right away. And this move makes sense to me because Kuprejcik is a really creative, tactical, and creative Ukrainian master going back decades. He's still alive as far as I know. I mean, Bishop E3 is one of his lines that like clamps down on C5. So I'm kind of afraid that I want to get in C5 while I have a window of opportunity to do it. Basically, F4 looks slow, so I'm very tempted to react with C5. If I play E6, White plays like Bishop E3 and can slow down my C5. So I wonder if I should just do it right away. Okay, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with E6. It is interesting to play C5 straight away. F5 is missing the point of the advanced Caro. Advance. Yeah, I don't know that missing the point is the right word. It's just not a standard move. Now C4. C4 exists in theory by itself without F4. Obviously now White's going a little too far here. So I think that generally speaking, when I was a beginner, I was obsessed with this concept of playing bishop takes b1, rook takes b1, and like queen a5 check and taking this pawn on a2. That's one of the things that I remember being a little kid, like 12 years old at one of my first tournaments, and being like really excited, that I could take this pawn. I thought I was, so crafty to like take on b1 and win a pawn on a2. But is it worth it? I mean, White should get really, really serious compensation in that kind of line. So I think I don't know. I mean, I really think that's kind of dodgy. It doesn't jump out, the best move for black here doesn't jump out at me. I mean, I think that taking on c4 strategically is probably the right thing to do. If we watch some games by like Caruana, you see, he played a game against Nair recently where he got just tremendous knight on d5 and white is risking being a little overextended. I don't know why you want to play knight a3, Andrea. Why would you want to prefer a3 to c3 for your knight? That's not obvious to me. This has got to be the wrong square. You want to play knight e3 for some reason, but it's not really necessary. And it seems like it takes quite a bit of time. I'm not even sure if knight d7 was a good move, perfectly honestly. It's not a bad move, but I mean, maybe we should be thinking about playing c5 and trying to get the knight to c6 where it's more active. I feel I've played kind of routinely here in this game. Andrea playing too quickly. There's a chronic problem on the stream. But white has a playable position. I think it's fully viable. We have queen h4 check. Worth considering. It looks very strange to do that, but at the same time, he has a lot of weaknesses on the white squares. I guess white can play knight g3, then knight takes f4. Knight takes f4, bishop takes f4, queen takes f4. Alright, this is a little bit out in space, but I mean, I feel like it's worth it to induce weaknesses in white's position. We've got to be careful we don't get our queen trapped or something like that. Yeah, I thought the rook was the most powerful next to the queen, but I want to lose my queen. You played just like me. I moved my rook pawns when I was new. Yeah, I had this really hairy game in the beginning of my career against the A player or something where I tried to pull that off, but I learned my lesson very quickly. I think I drew the game, but it was like horrible torture, the entire event. Now here, do I want to let him take on f5 or just take on d3? This is more compact. I'm helping him develop. That's the only thing. If I play bishop takes d3, I'm helping him develop. So queen g2, winning a pawn. Now I'm winning a pawn with this strange queen grab on the other side of the board here. It's almost a mirror image of the pawn grab on a2 that I was talking about. In this case, though, I feel like we're doing it at the expense of the white king's safety a little bit. So it's more justifiable, this variation. Same principle, going out on a limb, grabbing a pawn with a queen. But somehow it seems worth it a little bit more because we have forced him to weaken his king side. And now I think this is probably a very serious blunder. Bishop e4 check. He's getting crushed tactically. But Andrea, why the instant moves every move? Are you in a hurry? You need to take your time. Did I just have a hanging rook on g1 I didn't take? Yeah. Yeah, what am I doing? He played knight c3. This is where I'm at today. You know, I don't play queen takes g1 check. Don't ask me why. You're a disaster against me. Well, yeah, we're going to lose a rook here. Somebody's going to lose a rook. Or worse. Yeah, it wasn't good. But perhaps at some point your position was fine there. Excuse me, guys. A little bit of background. Clearing my throat. I'm a little choked up. I don't know why. So Hunt the King is 8-3. That's good time control. Did we get a re-challenge from the player who... Yeah, King Chaser re-challenged me. All right, King Chaser, I'll move you up to the next game. I didn't see you down there. So King Chaser did re-challenge. And the advanced Caro F4 is never played. Yeah, I mean, bulletproof. I don't mean to be contradictory, but I mean there probably are, you know, some games where some masters have played it. It's pretty rare. Yeah, it's not really good. I mean, you're asking too much of the position basically. It's the same thing as, well, what can I compare it to? Well, it's the same thing as players like with white that try to play against the Scandinavian. You'll often see e4, d5, e5, and something like f4 next. That kind of position is pretty much the same sort of thing, where white just kind of overextends their center. You're turning a good opening into a kind of crappy one, you know, to be honest, with f4. You're turning a good system into a kind of coffee house line with f4. It's not like white is clearly worse or something, but it's not great. So here we have to be careful. I don't really like bishop g7. There is a famous game that Fischer lost against Korchnoi. After bishop g7, d4, d6, d5, knight e5, knight d2, f5 was the Fischer idea, which was like a great idea actually. He played creatively. Then later on Fischer, how was it now? Maybe he drew? I don't remember now. All right. But anyway, there was an interesting exchange sacrifice. Maybe Fischer drew, actually. I'm saying he lost, but I think he actually drew. I actually lied about the result. Not really lying, I just told an untruth that Fischer lost, but he was lost probably. All right. Bishop g7. So I don't like those lines with 4 bishop g7 or 4 bishop g7. I don't trust. Knight f6 is better. But honestly, Hunt the King, when you play this line, now you need to play, after e3, knight f6, you need to play d4, d5. You need to take here, or play bishop g5. One of those two moves. The other lines aren't dangerous for black. Bishop e3. This is already giving black at least equality. I realize that it's like a Tarash with colors reversed. White's okay, but you need to get more with the white pieces. So transposing to this kind of harmless sort of line, white is okay, but I don't think this is what we really want with the white pieces. All right, b6 maybe. We're in theory here with colors reversed, I guess. Oftentimes I'll take on c4 and play b6. I think I did that. I might have done it against you. White could do other stuff. I don't really like bishop g4. Don't understand the point of that. Seen some people do that sometimes. I had an ex-roommate who was a master strength player who used to play stuff like bishop f5 and bishop g4. I don't see like why, you know, in this type of position you really put the bishop out on those squares. I'm gonna go with my old standby here. Yeah, I'll do some yoga or something. I really slept in the wrong position with my neck last night. Talked to Grandmaster Brian Smith and asked him, he found some kind of, when he was here, he found some kind of chiropractor or something. I have to ask him, when he hung out with me back in in June, he had some sort of big piece of tape on his neck, and I'll have to hunt him down on Facebook and ask him where he went, because man, I really twisted my neck in my sleep last night. B6, piece of sheet. The way I'm playing today, you guys don't have to fear me too much. I need more powerful coffee. Obviously, like most people, when I'm fully wired with a lot of coffee, I play extremely well in blitz. But if I just wake up, usually when I'm doing the stream, I'm not really like 100% awake, which kind of is good for you guys, because I might be a little bit brutal. If I was really, I'm only about 90%, and when I'm 100%, I'm pretty tough. So B6, I'm not a big believer that this is perfect for black, but I can tell you with 100% certainty that I don't feel white should get any advantage in this sort of setup. And I've played a few games. In fact, I lost against Oliver Mihawk in like 2010 with a similar type position with white, and I don't like it. I don't want any part in playing the Tarash with colors reversed. So yeah, Hunt the King, I mean, very interesting stuff. If you go back and study the lines after C takes D4, E takes D4, D5, C takes D, Knight takes D, Queen B3. I was playing this before it was trendy, for black, and now it's like a big trend. The other line is, it goes Queen B3, Knight takes C3, Bishop C4, Knight back to D5, Bishop takes D5, E6. I had countless games on ICC with International Master Olaf Sepp. He's like a pretty tough positional type of player. I remember a game with Pop Gabor. I played a lot of games with black. And then Pop Gabor, it was the other strong Hungarian, Pop Jula, who was like almost 2600 probably. D5, Knight A5. It's a fun variation, but you really have to play those lines. And the other line, if we go back, is Bishop G5, which is more positional and more like a sort of Trompowsky type position. But you've got to play those lines, man, if you're going to play this with white, because they're the only variations that offer white anything. Bishop A6 is just helping him kind of develop his pieces, so we're going to focus on hunting the d-pawn instead of hunting the king. I rarely checkmate my opponents here on the stream. It seems like we're mostly hunting pawns and things like positional advantages, not hunting kings. Super Patzer says, Arena, you have to use wine. You guys are talking about computer stuff again. Crusader of Hope, thanks for answering questions in the stream there and guiding people to what type of time control to play. Jeroen is late today. He's off drinking beer again somewhere. No, I'm just kidding. He's invited me to play at Groningen, and I'm thinking about maybe going out there to the Netherlands to play in December after Christmas. I've never played. I've played Hastings a few times after Christmas, but I've never played, and I always wanted to play in the traditional Groningen tournament. So that could be on the schedule. D6, it's a pawn, right? Pawn is pawn. We make this joke in my poker game that pair is pair, pawn is pawn. Sort of the same thing. D6, we can take with a clean structure. Knight takes B3. You're going to take on E7. We just shatter your pawn structure, have two bishops. But objectively, if I win a pawn here, should I take with the queen or with the pawn? Pawn takes. Whatever I do, it looks like white's going to have a little bit of compensation. It's kind of hard to decide on a variation, isn't it? I mean, you take with the pawn, take with the queen, take the bishop on b3. Everything looks tempting. The queen capture, I'm going to take with the pawn. We're going to play this position. I don't know if it's the best move or not, but it certainly can't be bad. Now he can't play bishop d5. You think about this variation, for example, like trying to keep the d5 square, like a Korchnoi type of positional pawn sacrifice. He can't do that because he'll drop the pawn on b2 ultimately, I think. White doesn't really have enough sort of compensation for this pawn, but he has some practical compensation. There he is now. I was just talking about you, Siroche. And on the rest day, we'll drink palinka. I don't need no stinking rest day, right? Speaking of rest day, man, Kramnik is just beside himself, man. Why does he play this really lame Queen's Gambit like he played yesterday against Mamedyarov? I'd go back to the Lasker variation before I would play what he played yesterday against Mamedyarov. I don't like it. He's out of form. No, that needs to be... Kramnik is a guy, he needs to take a month off from chess and drink some palinka. Okay. So I just might take you up on that. Playing in Groningen sounds like not a bad idea. Bishop g5. Well, I'm up a pawn here, and I don't see... Okay, if I play h6, he just plays bishop h4. I'm not really solving my problem. Although I have in reserve. I have g5 in reserve when I need it. And if I play knight takes b3 at some point, then this g5 thing may not mean that much weakness on my king side without a white square bishop to exploit it. So Hunt the king has... That bishop's got to be worth more than a knight on a5. Hunt the king has not really enough compensation for the sacrificed pawn. But it's an obvious target on d6, and now he has to worsen his pawn structure. I don't think he wants me to do this. Bishop takes f3. Maybe he does. You could do queen takes b3. Phew, I talked him out of it. No, I'm just kidding. I do occasionally try to get you people to play moves that I want you to play using reverse psychology, but I don't do that very often. G5 now, I feel like is fine because of strategic, considerations. I wouldn't mind weakening my king side, but I don't really want to play, G5 yet and bring him to pressure to bear on D6. So he's not really threatening anything too concrete. Maybe I can play Queen D7 here, just getting out of the pin. That looks like a good move. We've got bishops on long diagonals. That's our main goal. And you put the bishops on long diagonals and you take things. That's something we we discovered a long time ago. Alexander Ivanov, again, one of my local influences in New England, one of the best players, I am personal friends with. He's professional, in just putting his bishops on the long diagonals and taking things. Just put them there, hunker down, and just start snapping things. You know, whatever's within the diagonals range. Maybe this knight will snap that. Queen g4 looks strongly problematic. Well, queen g4, queen takes d6, loses a piece. Queen g4, bishop g3, bishop takes. And this is probably a simple solution. Keeping it simple with 2 minutes on the clock. Trading a healthy pawn for a sick pawn. Trading this pawn for this pawn. A good deal for me. I don't mind giving up the bishop pair to simplify into what should be a winning endgame. DST, wow, how big of a donation would I have to make for you to play the full 24-hour Hyper Bullet Marathon? It's a serious question, I know. Wish you wouldn't ask these serious questions. $15,000. Queen takes f3. I think about $15,000 would be about right. No, I'm all right. No, I'll answer seriously. No, I'm not serious with the $15,000. I'm just kidding. I will think about a serious answer for DST. DST, good to see you. Haven't been around here in a while, or you've been quiet if you have. I will think about it. When is this Hyper Bullet Marathon? Because obviously I don't know. When is the Hyper Bullet Marathon? I don't know. Exactly the exact time and day of this event is unbeknownst to me. Rook d8. This way I can kick him off the 7th rank. That was what I was checking for, a way to like play rook on the 7th, so he doesn't have this annoying kind of pressure on my a7 pawn. Little Pingwing, I appreciate the $5, man, if you can donate it. That's awesome. That's all I ask for. Rook d7. If everybody would donate $5 a year, you know, we would instantly have more than enough to support the stream on my YouTube channel for a whole year. Queen c4, good move under the circumstances, I think. I want to get coordinated here. We are coordinated. He is coordinated. Everybody is coordinated. All right. I was thinking knight h5. It's sort of annoying that bishop on g3 is a pretty good defender. Obviously his pawn structure might benefit from knight takes g3. I'm not committed to knight takes. Maybe I have other interesting stuff. Not committed to knight takes g3. We have knight f4 in some positions. It might be really good. And rook d4 and knight f4. That's taking the wind out of that idea, Sales. We can snap another pawn here. We take pawn donations as well. If everyone donated one pawn every game, we keep the stream running. Alright, King Wiki is not next, because King Chaser was next, and King Chaser re-challenged. So King Chaser, I hope he's ready, because he might have not realized I was going to take his challenge next. Yeah, good job re-challenging me. We haven't played him before. 201st place for the 132nd. Okay. What's that? October 15th. That's bad. That is bad because that's the same day as the Hungarian Blitz Championship. Unfortunately, yeah, I'm going to be playing in the Hungarian Blitz Championship. Prizes are a little better. And you guys are going to be rooting for me. They're not that big, the prizes, but for Hungary, they're pretty good. I'll post the link to the site when we get closer to the time. Knight takes c6, not really a good variation for white. Occasionally in the accelerated dragon, this is a good idea. If you can force me to not be able to castle, if you can force like e5 on the knight on f6. But this variation he played here, bishop d4, looks artificial. So I have knight f6. This is some obscure line, probably, but it's not really dangerous for black. 9 p.m. UTC. Wait a minute. Well, what do you mean 9 p.m.? What are you talking about? Oh, that's the starting time? Yeah, I can't play. I mean, I'm definitely busy for most of that day. Knight c3. What about d6 here? e5 looks unpleasant. So queen a5, worth considering. Of course, queen a5 is worth considering. Queen d2, and then what? I guess I should just castle. Seems a little bit lame, just castling. I wouldn't mind something better. Queen e5, queen d2, I don't see where I'm going next after that. I mean, e5 doesn't look good. c5 maybe. Queen a5, queen d2, c5, bishop e3. Interesting. Knight g4. Feels a little bit risky. Queen a5, queen e2. Okay, c5. Maybe he doesn't. Yeah, he has to play bishop. Bishop e5, d6 is stupid for white. Actually, I have to watch for bishop e5 check there. Queen a5, queen d2. If c5. So maybe queen a5, queen d2 castles. Queen a5, queen d2, rook b8 actually looks kind of cool. Okay, let's try this. Yeah, you can enter after you won the Hungarian tournament. Okay, I kind of misunderstood though. You know, I mean, I don't think that DST is offering me like to pay me for playing like one game in the 24-hour tournament, you know. Yeah, I'll just go play the Hungarian Blitz Championship and then come and I'll log on and play one game. Say I played in the tournament. What are the prizes? I might match them if you play in the Hyper Bullet tournament. Oh, I think it must be something like... It must be something like $1,000 for first place. In that range. I'm not going to quote directly. I mean, it may be a little more or a little less. Around $1,000 for first place. Queen a5 here. So threatening knight takes e4. Is that going to be streamed too? What are you talking about? The Hungarian Blitz Championship streamed? I have no idea. Hungarian Chess Federation has been sort of slow to adopt new technology. Their videos from the Olympiad were pretty weak. I actually thought about approaching them and like offering to do commentary. The only problem is that my Hungarian is kind of sketchy. I don't have the greatest Hungarian, so I'm not sure if I could really ever... Maybe in the future, but at the moment, I don't think I could really be a commentator in Hungarian. It would just be, it would be too many mistakes. I would sound too alien, make too many grammatical mistakes. Well, I don't know if they're going to be doing any kind of live stream of that. Hyper Bullet. Yeah, that's what I figured you were asking. I don't think so. They might, but blitz tournaments are hard to stream because everything happens so fast. It's not like a regular tournament. They're holding it in a nice place, at least in the nicest shopping center in Budapest. Okay, so e5 here. I wouldn't know. I guess knight d5 for black. And obviously the pawn on e5 gets a little overextended. I only mentioned queen d2, but I mean e5 certainly is an option. It's not dangerous for black. King Chaser here thinking forever. Hyperbullet, obviously DST likes to sort of try to convert me into becoming like a bullet player. But I've never played bullet. I mean, I never played bullet. I mean, I played bullet sometimes. I preferred 2-0 when I did play bullet. And a 2-0 was doable for me. I mean, I always felt like it was fun. But hyper bullet is another matter altogether. So now we have e5, which is obviously critical. e5 followed by knight takes e4 looks kind of hard to meet, honestly, because b4 fails. And the bishop on c4 isn't helping white here. It's actually a tactical liability. Resignania. It's fun, yeah, but it also doesn't do much for your game. I think the 2-0 is where we draw the line between really useful. Okay, even the 1-0 may be useful. But hyperbullet becomes total insanity. So it's like non-increment 30-second. Is that the hyperbullet? 30-second chess? Am I on the right page here? Because I'm so up on it, you know. Knight takes e4. Well, he has this trick, queen f3, but it doesn't actually do anything. Bishop takes f7, doesn't do anything. So we're good to go. Actually, yeah, d5 failed because of pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, bishop b5 check, and I can't win a piece. Otherwise, I'd be rolling with like d5, d4. Resignanian. Cool. What is your online name? DST is a bullet specialist. Resignanian's up to 2450 in standard. That's solid, man. We had a good draw yesterday. No, I won the game yesterday. Okay. He blundered at the end, though. It was really irrelevant. It was a good game. It should have been a... Well, it wasn't draw-ish, but it probably should have been a draw. Very interesting game, though, yesterday. I think he was winning at one point. Knight takes e4 here. So... Well, d5 shutting down his b. And this should be game over. I have knight takes c3. followed by e4. Maybe I don't win a piece. It's possible. Possible we don't win a piece here. Yep, it's looking more and more likely we don't win a piece. All right. So my king haunts me. I mean, this is, we can't just let him open up that diagonal. Can we win a pawn? Can I get a pawn? Knight takes c3. Just a pawn will do. That's the ideal pawn center. We started off the stream very badly, but we're picking up steam now. Bishop d2. Can you play that? Is that a good move even? I don't know. White should be lost here. Even if it's just a couple pawns, I'm up. It should be sufficient to win the game. They make less mistakes. Good point. Although today I started off really shaky, dropping a piece in one game, almost losing another one. So we have our good days and our bad days. For a minute I was frozen, paralyzed with fear that you can sack a piece with bishop takes d5, but that's a little hard to believe. Bishop takes d5, pawn takes d5, queen takes d5, rook b8. That's worth looking at, you know. I mean, what's happening there? Bishop takes d5, pawn takes d5, queen takes d5. My rook is hanging. It's a whole rook. I can't afford to lose that. I could castle, queen takes a8, bishop a6, win the exchange back, then it's like equal. So I have to move rook b8, and then there's no checks for white. But he could stop me from castling somehow. Probably not enough. Queen d6. Queen d6, bishop f8. It's probably not sound. There's this queen f6, so at least it was the best practical try, I think, under the circumstances. You know, now there's like no complication at all. So in practice, you should try sacrificing a piece there. Because otherwise this is, you're not down a piece, but you're really in a position where there's no counterplay whatsoever. Two pawns down. Pretty serious deficit. And, okay, you're not going to give me time to do what I wanted to do. But, alright, keep bothering me. What I wanted to do was play g5. This move immobilizes those pawns forever. I think it's really best. c5 is fine, d4. Threatening to, and then mobilizing my other b from f8 here. Get the last piece in the game. Rook b8. He played c4. I don't really want to break up my structure here, so thinking about d4. Although, yeah, probably best to simplify. I'm 2 pawns up. Rook on the 7th. Then he has rook a4. Although then I have c4. try this one. This is going to take some technique to win. He's obviously kind of fast, bullet-oriented type player. He seems to be very crafty, not giving up. The open file here should be fairly important. Open files. Open file. Bishop d2. Now he's targeting my pawn in some lines. This is a problem. Now we force a technical situation. Not going to give him any counterplay. H5 maybe? We never played this player before. That's too much material. A rook e4, something would have been more stubborn. He's actually got a little bit of counterplay. Shouldn't be a big deal if I lose my h-pawn. Technically I could hold it with rook h4. He was afraid of that. So I feel the competitive nature of King Chaser. He's really trying, even 2 pawns down, 3 pawns down. So I can feel the desire to win. Now I want to really be practical here. I can force a trade of rooks with rook h4, but take king up gets a little bit weird. I have to calculate that. It's probably best not to do that, so we'll just play c4. Not to give him any kind of chance, basically. Rook b8. Now c2. Resigns. Okay, thanks for the game, man. King Wiki played yesterday. Good luck, everybody. I'd like to just remind everybody that Sunday I have a simul here on lichess at 6:30 p.m. CEST. That's 18:30 Central European summertime. Hungary time. King Wiki, you're up. Also, guys, check out my YouTube videos, video chess training on YouTube. I also upload the streams to the channel there whenever possible. D4. Knight F6. And we've got time left for Resignanian Geese. Possibly another game, but beyond that. Bishop F4. The London system. The dreaded London system. So C5 is the most dynamic here. Actually, it's the most dynamic always. It seems like the most immediately dynamic approach involves the Benoni early C5 against D4. My good friend Emil Salanci plays a lot of D4, C5. And, you know, I mean, if you want an aggressive setup, I think it's really an interesting choice. I'm just going to transpose to some kind of normal London system. I could play queen b6 there. That's normally what I do. Now I think queen b6, queen b3, c4. Well, it's a standard position. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. He could transpose to a kind of Slav with reverse colors. He could have taken on c5. I don't know the theory too well about this reverse Slav type things, but it certainly seems like a legitimate line to play like d takes c there. I've seen it done. But there's some interesting lines. After c5, I'm trying to remember, I think e3. I want to say e3. And then if queen b6, knight c3 is one game I had with a very strong IM who seemed to be heavily prepared in this particular variation. Queen c2 is a bit unusual, and I normally don't recommend people put the queen on c2 in these kind of Slav positions. The queen is often exposed on that square. Now I have bishop f5. But actually, bishop f5, d takes c5. Did I fall for that once against somebody? That's bizarre. Bishop f5, d takes c5. I feel like I've been here before. Having chess deja vu. Bishop f5, d takes c5. Bishop takes c2, a takes b, c takes b, a takes b. What's going on there? Material is even, but my bishop on c2 is sort of misplaced. Yeah, I don't know that I'm not that confident about that. So we're gonna just defer to either bishop g4 or bishop e6. You know, maybe e6 and bishop d7 is actually a good way of playing here. I kind of like it with the queen on c2. You may think at first sight it's just passive, but Capablanca played one game where he played like bishop f5 and bishop back to d7 in a similar structure. Because he liked the placement of the bishop on d7, we've got this diagonal here. The queen is misplaced on c2, rook c8. Quickly playing Caro-Kann style. But if you want to play bishop g4, it's perfectly fine. Bishop d7 or pawn takes pawn. PDX Zion Lion, what's up, man? Now knight e5, interesting. I could just take, but it's not necessarily the only move. Rook c8 is also good. One thing I've been working on in the last recent years is this really trying to understand the concept of minor pieces in different kind of pawn structures. Is it better to have a bishop or a knight? A4 looks like a completely random move. Looks like we might have knight takes c6, d takes c there, and this way we win a pawn with knight takes d4. It's the plan, basically. He played a4 to maybe try to attack my queen, but it was slow, neglecting his kingside development. Actually, I'm neglecting my kingside development too, but okay, he's just overlooking the tactical point of my play. So guys, if anyone's interested in training or lessons, I'm available for teaching. You can send me an email, videochesstrainer@gmail.com. My coaching info is available on lichess under the coaches list, and you can also contact me, as I said, either by a message here on lichess or email me, videochesstrainer@gmail.com. Also, if you just have any questions for the stream or general chess questions, feel free to send me an email. Queen b1, keeping the queen on this diagonal and defending b2 looks like a good move. Now, I want to fight for the center here, so I think I'm going to go back to c6. I don't see anything really dynamic. This also stops a5. I mean, it doesn't physically stop a5, but it discourages a5. Bishop d3, aggressive move. We have knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, knight g4, but I'm afraid it doesn't really do anything. Like a simpler move. Like what? What simpler move can we play here? Knight takes d6, knight takes e5, excuse me, and then developing either with bishop c5 or I prefer. What do I prefer here? King wiki. How were the games we played before? I don't recall. Oh, this really weird King's Indian yesterday. The other game I don't have a recollection of. White has a little bit of compensation here. I want to say White has a little bit of compensation for the sacrificed pawn here. I mean, a4 ended up actually doing some important stuff for White. He lost a pawn, but he's taken away bishop b5 from me. He's starting to harass my queen. It's kind of frustrating. Knight g4. But then I end up having to go back. So I guess I have to play this. Bishop d6. Trading off a dangerous piece. Yeah, this is probably best. You're up a pawn, and you have a chance to trade off a very powerful piece for the opponent. King wiki. Some dynamic potential here. And then a5, very well timed move. Now he doesn't have the ability to maintain the e5 square any longer with knight f3. Which was an option last move. Try to maintain control of e5. So it's kind of hard to say which is better. I mean, a5, okay, you gain a little bit of space. Now bishop d4. Threatening a7 or bishop b6 or something like that. Now we could sack a pawn with e5, e4, try to take over on the king's side. It's interesting and tempting to do that. Just shift the game over to the other side. But I'd be concretely giving back the pawn. Just seems like the wrong thing to do when I'm up a clear pawn. When you're up a clear pawn, you don't want to go from like up a pawn to unclear, you know. So if I wasn't up a pawn, was bishop takes f6 good? I don't really like it. Black has slice some, dice some kind of bishops. Yeah, and then the bishop gets trapped on h7 probably straight away. Bishop takes, f6 takes, bishop takes h7, f5. Just loses a piece for white. No. No. He can't do that. Even if it didn't lose a piece, I wouldn't like it. White would lose the initiative there. Absolutely not. No, I mean, bishop d4 probably was the best move. And king wiki, you know, I talked about this earlier with the game I drew against the guy who was like the same rating. I don't remember his name now. Sorry for that. The game that was a draw. And, I mean, this is a guy who's 1500. He's dropped a pawn, but he has some compensation. Very cagey type of play, but it shouldn't be enough. But good practical play, you know. You lose a pawn, you don't give up. You keep fighting, and you find the most dynamic chance. And on b4, okay, b4 is probably nearly losing by force. But I can't say for sure. These pawns look like two weaknesses here. Yeah, it loses by force. Queen c3. Doesn't have a move. That's the second pawn. He'll castle. He can't. He drops a piece. So this is decisive. Queen c3. If white doesn't do that, I don't know. I think that b4 is just the wrong idea, weakening the position further. He should simply play either knight f3 or castle, or even bishop takes c5. It's objectively losing for white a pawn down, but there's still some play here. This is the losing move, b4. I mean, a lot of computers really don't admit you have a winning position until you're up like 1.5 in terms of material. I mean, being a pawn down isn't necessarily a lost position. And I think that's one of the most important kind of positions in chess that we get so often. We're just a pawn down, and learning to play and defend or win those kind of positions is often critical. Bishop takes f6 here, good for white. Yeah, we just talked about that. No, it's not good. It gives up a key. Bishop, it's like you don't get the pawn on h7. It brings another pawn toward the center. My king is safe. No, it's very bad. I have two monstrous bishops. No, bishop takes f6 is not good. It's sometimes in close positions it would be good. If white's position was in order, I mean, completely everything else was in order, maybe it would be okay, but he's not well developed. Has other weaknesses. My king isn't castled. My king is safe on e7 in a lot of positions. He dropped a piece. So, well, that's kind of how I lost. My earlier game, things went wrong and then I just like psychologically collapsed. Now rook c2 followed by bishop b5. Rook c2 first, so I have the e2 square covered if the knight moves, and then I can play bishop b5. And queen b3 loses a piece to rook takes d2. So, actually this also wins. Rook takes d2, but we'll play mate is better. It's not mate right away, but it's close enough. It probably is mate. Yeah, it is mate. It is mate right away. Never mind. We have a lot of pieces covering e2. Sorry, it was mate right away. Alright, guys. We've got time for two more games. Resignanian and Geese. These expect to be tough games. Resignanian is a good player, and Geese has fought me very tough recently. So, with Resignanian now, he's had black last game. It was... Let me see. No, he was white last game, and black before that, it was a birds opening because it was Wednesday, and I was playing weird openings. Now, Wednesday is my weird openings, unusual opening stream. With Resignanian, I'm not sure what he plays against e4. We played a number of games, but most of them were a while ago, not in the recent past. So, just these last two games I played recently against him. I'm not sure I remember what he plays with black against e4. You need my queenside pawns. You ruined my queenside pawns early. Yeah, but queen c2 is just not good. So Resignanian, if I pronounce it like it was Hungarian, I would say Rezignanian. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, man. Let me know. Queen c7, g3. And we don't remember. I mean, I'm speaking like I was more than one person in the plural form of we. I don't remember if we played this before, but it's possible that we did have a game in this line. The early a6, and somewhere deep in my memory banks is possibly a recollection of something. Plays a6 now, stopping knight b5. And maybe I lost to Rezignanian. If it wasn't him, it was somebody else. Let's see. I love this, like, you can kind of cheat by looking at the games in the past. Okay, I won that one. Where's the games I lost? This one was not a g3 Sicilian. This one could have been, I don't know what it was. And this one, I'm not even sure what color I was. I'm white here. When the last one I was white. So it could have been a game. I don't recall. But somebody I lost to in this variation. I don't remember who it was. Now, a4. I don't really think a4 is right. I had a game a long time ago with International Master. Yeah. Lucian Philippe. Or Philippe Lucian. That was a long time ago at a tournament in Romania. I got a little advantage. And I've seen Alexander Ivanov play this with white. I mean, I think bishop f4 is a move here. Who did I see? Oh, there was this guy, Roussel Rousmoon from Canada. I saw Alexander Ivanov play him in Moscow once in this line with bishop f4. But bishop f4, bishop takes d4, bishop takes c7. Probably white's a little bit better there. But queen d3 looks totally normal. And Resignanian now has 2.5 minutes time advantage. That's why we don't play rated games anymore. I'm just giving people time odds, basically. So d6. Yeah, I guess that's why bishop f4 is played. Maybe we can't get an opening edge after that. Bishop f4 now. Let's try it. We just got to be practical with this time control. There is a 5-second increment, which is kind of cool. I like it better than the 3. It helps. Chose this variation for white because it is very solid. Players like Michael Adams. If you study Adams' games, he's kind of a specialist in having a safe king in things like positions like this. Now here Resignanian weakening the d5 square considerably with e5. I'm not sure if that's good or not. Yeah, so I think we can comfortably claim a slight edge in this kind of position here. Bishop takes f6. Very simplistic, but safe and easy to play position. We can torture him. Kind of torture him. You have bishop c4 here. Knight d5. He's looking for bishop c4, I guess. Sack my queen, maybe. Bishop c4, queen takes c4. So this looks like a Sveshnikov, where black has a kind of unpleasant situation. Not to say white's winning necessarily, but it's a kind of thankless, I would think a kind of thankless position for black. Maybe white isn't clearly better. That's an interesting move, h5. I don't know if it's good or bad. The jury is still out on it. I'm going to try to fix it. Not only, you know, to not allow him to play h4, but fix the pawn on h5 on a white square. That could be a fatal weakness in the long run. But as they say, before the end game, the gods have placed the middle game. So Resignanian here is not, you know, without resources, I think. I'd like this to be, you know, ultra technical with no counterplay for black. But I'm happy with this position. I think objectively there's a very, very crafty move, rook g8. But rook takes g3. He stopped my plan of bishop f3. I wanted to play bishop f3 and king g2, and he's crossed my plans here. Queen d3 is a stopgap, but it doesn't allow me to play bishop f3 anyway, so I'm not sure. Queen d1 is an interesting move. Dropping a pawn on g3. Okay, never mind. So I really have to do king h2. I'm not really thrilled about this. I don't think that Resignanian can afford to play queen b6, queen takes b2 here. And actually, there's tactical things down the f-file, even if he wins the pawn on that square. Now bishop f3, followed by king g2. Is he going to double on the file and have... Well, I'm going to be hitting... Yeah, he's going to double on the file. Bishop f3. Anyway. If he doubles on the file, he loses his h-pawn. If he wants to do that. Just have to be careful tactically. He's going to be tied down to f7 if I take on h5. So that's kind of a good thing. I always have queen d2 if I need to protect f2. As I said, like queen b6, I mean, it's more dangerous for him to take on b2. He's letting me play like rook b1, rook takes b7, when his king would be in dire straits. So, one more game after this one with Geese. So what I was talking about with Michael Adams is, you see a player like kind of like Karpov, who, with white in the Sicilian or even the Tarish French, he plays without any risk to his king. It's pretty amazing. You know, he can basically crush people without taking any risks, which is really impressive. Okay, so now rook g7 looks like a good try, practically speaking. So c3 for me. If I take on h5, you know, it seems like a little risky, so I don't think I need to do that. Taking on h5 can be saved for later. I think I give him some tactical... I really end up giving him tactical chances. Not to say I'll never take it. I mean, we will take it at some point, but overprotecting b2, f2. eventually we can take the initiative on the queen side, something like b4, a4, b4, a4. The b4 is double-edged. This is not that easy because I'm in time pressure. I guess we'll try a4 here. Try to activate my rook on its initial square. Create another weakness on either a6 or b5. His king is open, so he has to be really careful about opening lines. He can't play queen b6, which is a kind of normal move. It'll lose a piece to b4. It's kind of hard for him to up the ante here. How does he improve? Hard for black to improve his position. The king has no really safe long-term place. The position is more like a Sveshnikov than a Paulson or something like that. This is a classic Sveshnikov position. Queen c8 now. He's trying to set up sacrifices on f2, but I could just take with the queen, take the two rooks. I don't see how that's going to work. Now maybe b4, but not necessarily b4. Rook a5. But maybe not even that. Okay, b4. Takes. Okay, b4 is okay. If he sacrifices on f2, I get two rooks and a bishop for a queen, which is too much. If I do something like rook a2 here, sort of defending. Rook d1. Abandoned the A file, kind of weird, but I'm getting short of time. So I don't know, queen e6. But at some point, I should think about taking on h5. Eventually I'm going to take that pawn on h5. I have another plan here that's pretty interesting. Just occurred to me. Okay, rook d3. This defends everything. Whoa. All right, things are getting kind of sharp now. That was my plan, basically. Even if he didn't put the rook there. We have f3. f3. should be winning. I don't see anything for black here. So tough game, but ultimately black's position was a little bit dubious strategically. Thanks for the game, Resignanian. Geese is up. This should be last game for today, guys. We'll be back on Sunday with a simul. Geese, Alekine's defense today, or what? What are we gonna play? No Alekine's or Alekine's defense. Only for the only for the weird Wednesday stream. Okay, e4 c5. Play another Sicilian. Was it you who played the accelerated dragon? Yeah. So I mean, I like the Marazzi, but I feel like when I play e4, I have to really play like a man, so to speak. So we're gonna try, you know, to play classically. We had an interesting game with Geese where he played this game, and maybe we'll repeat it today. This is a Tal Larsen game. I don't know if he's gonna play the same line again, but if he does, it's actually an interesting question. Last time he uncorked an unusual move order against me with d6, h3, a5, and it's a very rare move order that I kind of like, actually. I mean, it's not clear to me there's anything concretely wrong with it, and looking it up, I realized there was this kind of classic matchup between Tal and Larsen, where Tal was unable to get, you know, anything special, and overall the variation seems playable for black. If I'm losing my chat here, I haven't seen anything in the chat in like 5 minutes, so I have to refresh my Twitch chat. We will see. Only 46 players in the chat today. Friday, I think everybody has stuff to do. They're excited for the weekend. Bring your friends to the stream. If you have any suggestions for like thematic things we can do in the stream, like I'm doing the unusual openings on Wednesdays, if anybody has suggestions, let me know. So instead, Geese now goes with, he now does with the knight g4 right away. Now, what's weird about this is that normally they play the Uigel with a5, a4, and then knight g4. That's what's commonly seen. So this is actually a quite unusual order of moves. I mean, the inclusion of a4, a5, what does that really mean here? You know, white's like less inclined to castle queenside would be the kind of number one thing, I would think, here. I'm still shocked into silence for how bad I played the London system. Should have played queen b3. Queen b3 or queen c1. Oh, man. So Geese keeps coming up with these kind of obscure but playable move orders here. d5 is a kind of threat to open the position in black's favor. Queen h4, queen d1. I mean, queen h4 is kind of like the standard. Nesmadinov had a famous game in a similar line. Can just play strategically, I guess. Accelerated Dragon is not really that tactical. It's more, I think, of a positional opening. for the Sicilian. In the last game, couldn't black play rook takes h4 when he resigned, followed by queen f4 check and bringing the rook to the g? Rook takes h4 when he resigned. Wow. I have to take a look at that. I'm getting a little groggy here at the end of the stream. Rook takes h4 and queen f4 check ideas. His queen is on f5. Oh, interesting. Okay. Rook takes h4, so I have to take with the pawn, and then queen f4 check, with the idea of bringing the rook to the g column. Sounds like a plan. I don't know if it's enough. I'll take a look. Post stream. So he sacks a rook on h4, plays queen f4 check. Then where do I go? h1? I would want to put my king on h1. And I don't think black has enough there, but I haven't looked at the board. So now geese, we can castle either way here. And a6 is kind of inviting me to castle queenside a little bit. There's no a5 type of stuff. We could just play bishop h6 and wait. I like trading this powerful dark squared bishop off. And then we'll decide where to castle based on what happens next. I don't have that many pieces for an attack here. It's true. Last game for the stream today, guys. Possibly taking the pawn on h, going perpetual check on f4 if he brings his queen. Well, I want to put my king on a white square, obviously, you know, so h1, but I don't see how he's going to get a perpetual check. Okay, d6. So what's going on here? I don't have the h file, you know, h file ability to open that up. Knight d5 though will be a double attack. This square and this square. Also, there's the possibility of the rook entering the game by the a file. That's one vote for castling kingside. The other thing is the d file for the rook could be, you know, we don't have rook h3 type of mates, so I don't see me like checkmating black real easily here. Castles f4, f5 looks like the standard kind of play. Black is pretty solid though. One has to admit, though, where to put the bishop. But you threatened to take the bishop on h3. Okay, well, I can't analyze without the board. I don't have the position that well committed to my memory. f4. I don't want to trade queens in this position. We've had similar games we've won against the uncastled, almost feels uncastled, against the weakened black king side. Against Lazy Master, we had a nice win in a similar kind of Marazzi with the same structure. I played f5. Radical, but solving the problem of king safety. Some sense. Rook a e1. looks kind of problematic for black, I would think. We've got our ready-made avenue for this. Last game of the stream, guys. We're going overtime today, but we warmed up. We lost a really bad game in a French winner. We drew a kind of lousy game where we were in big trouble. And then we started playing better toward the end of the stream. Rook f7 now. So that's the solid move. What else are you going to do? Another one of these ghost bishops I've talked about in structures like this. Pawn takes pawn, bishop takes pawn, knight d5, triple attacking e7, and then my c2 pawn is hanging. That's good. So there's a problem with pawn takes pawn. We could come back with the queen. It feels kind of like we're going the wrong way, but just centralizing. Could play for just frontal pressure. Geese is hanging in there in this game. I don't know what to do. Get my king to a safer square. Wait and see what happens here. I could also play e5 and change the pawn structure again, you know, to a more like playing for the dark squares, Tarrasch French type of idea. But I feel like it's time to centralize back with queen there. I just want to regroup. Black's defended successfully. Got all his pieces in the game. This way I can play queen d4, maybe stop b5, b4, stop queen b6. But I think that black is okay here. And I arguably misplayed this. e5 is interesting though still. And we're kind of thinking about it, shifting to a more Nimzovician approach here. Rather than trying to checkmate him, start putting things on dark squares and focusing on making his bishop bad. Yeah, I kind of like e5. And one of the reasons I played this, I want to reset and get control of d4. Rook a e1 was nice, but maybe in some instances the rooks would be better hopping over here to d1 and e1. And just, he has kind of hanging pawns in the center. I mean, I've played the Accelerated Dragon a lot for black, and I know, you know, how unpleasant it can be with the hanging pawns, these guys, along the central lines. So I think this position is about equal, but maybe it's a little easier for white to play since the king is safe and white has a tiny bit more space. Check e5. I think this can't be bad. Queen d4 check. Centralizing. We have b4. Actually. b4. Obviously weakening the c4 square, but stopping queen c5. Alright. Could end up costing me though. Let's just play e5 first. We're getting low on time. Just going to play this like a French Steinitz. You know, have really good control. Try to keep good control of d4. Put my pawns on dark squares for the most part. Now b4. Not really possible. I mean, it's possible, but what am I trying to say? b4, queen c7, b4, actually queen d8. Yeah, this may be good. All right, let's do it. I just got to watch for c4. Black has a little bit of counterplay. But if queen d8, b3 is possible. It's like shutting it down completely. So it's going to be a kind of positional struggle here. We also might have b5 breaking up his queenside pawns at some point. He only has 2 squares to choose from. Goes queen d8 now. Now obviously I can play rook d1. Stopping rook c4, putting pressure on d5. Black is somewhat paralyzed. He missed it. Okay, so this was kind of a cheapo. You have to play. I think queen c7 might have been better than queen d8 though, because knight takes d5 isn't that clear. You get my c2 pawn. Maybe black is okay there. I think after queen c7, white is better, but I'm not sure that I'm necessarily winning. Queen d8, even here, queen d8, you know, you can still defend. Rook f8, I guess. Rook f8. I would play rook f2. And then you have rook c4. So rook f8, maybe I have to play b3 now to stop rook c4. It's a struggle. White is better, but I'm not sure that, you know, I'm winning. Anyway, guys, that's it for the stream today. I'd like to thank everyone, and I'll take a look at the game with Rezignanian and give you my conclusions on the next Blitz Classical stream. But that'll be Monday at 10 a.m. Got to run now. We will take a look at these games. As I do go over the games like between streams. And if you have any interesting analysis or anything, you can always send it to my email, videochesstrainer@gmail.com. Anyway, thanks everybody for the stream today. It was fun, and we'll be back on Sunday. Nothing tomorrow, but on Sunday with a simul stream at 6:30 p.m. Central European Summertime. I'm going to lengthen the simul a little bit, I think, to it'll be about 3 hours because the time control has been an issue. So I want to make it long enough that that basically we have time that we're not getting in big time pressure every single game. So good simul coming up Sunday. We'll see you guys later. Thanks to Jeroen for being here to help to moderate, and to Mubat, who was doing a good job today. We'll see you guys later. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.